Hi guys, welcome back to our history crash course where we'll be continuing our segment on the interactions between ancient societies. Today we'll be focusing on the interactions between the Chinese Han Empire and the Xiongnu Empire. We've actually covered this briefly in previous sessions, but essentially the Xiongnu Empire was a confederation composed of numerous nomadic tribes in the Eurasian steppe. Since the Qin Empire, the Xiongnu have raided the frontier, which continued through the transition to the Han Empire. As a result, appeasements were formulated and broken, resulting in periods of peace and conflict between the Han and the Xiongnu Empire. Eventually, due to Xiongnu's internal disorder, the power of the confederation weakened, and the military campaigns of the Han succeeded, resulting in the decline of the Xiongnu Empire. Today, we have a renowned historian joining us today. You might know her from the several documentaries she has featured in and her published book on ancient China relations, which is called China's Ancient Past. Please welcome Jade Moore, who will be helping us investigate the consequences of the Han-Xiongnu relationship.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm overjoyed that I'm able to talk about my passions on such a popular podcast. Although I have spent so many years researching this subject, it always stumps me why interactions between the Han Empire and the Xiongnu Empire are overlooked, despite its short-term and long-term consequences that have been vital in shaping China throughout the years.
It's our pleasure to have you here, and yes, I also find myself wondering why the subject has not been explored more in depth within the media in contrast to topics like Cleopatra and ancient Egypt. Nonetheless, as we have a limited time, we'll get straight to the subject. As I've mentioned before, the relationship between ancient China and the Xiongnu stemmed from the Qin Empire, who apparently built the Great Wall of China because of the Xiongnu tribes. What can you tell us about this?
The Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi founded the first unified Chinese empire after successfully conquering the other major states during the Warring States period. Once in power, he introduced hard labor, where he ordered the construction of the walled fortifications across the northern frontier of the empire. And the population was required to connect the old scattered walls of previous states to form the Great Wall of China. The purpose of the wall was to defend against the nomadic tribes such as the Xiongnu, demonstrating the large threat the Xiongnu posed to ancient China. Throughout the changes in dynasties, the wall was extended and modified by successors such as the Han Empire, where Emperor Wudi utilized the wall to protect trade routes linking China to the west.
From this, we can consider the Great Wall of China to be one of the several consequences resulting from the relationship between ancient China and Xiongnu. Now, we know that one of the long-term results of the Qin-Xiongnu relations. Do you mind expanding on how the interactions between specifically the Han Empire and the Xiongnu affected the Great Wall of China? You mentioned trade routes. Are you referring to perhaps the Silk Road?
Yes, absolutely. When the Han Empire was under the reign of its founder, Emperor Gaozu, the Great Wall's purpose was to act as a mutual border between the Han and the Xiongnu, where neither side were required to advance without permission. This was one of the requirements within the He policy, which was a form of appeasement to the Xiongnu to prevent them from their continuing raids that economically cost the Han. Other requirements including the marriage of an imperial princess to the Chanyu, which is the ruler of the Xiongnu, as well as the periodic offering of luxury goods to the Xiongnu who were scarce in resources.
Oh yes, another condition of the He Qin settlement was the recognition of each ancient civilization as equals, but the policy benefited the Xiongnu far more than the Han, as it was rather humiliating for the Han to be given up so many things, the tributes of wine, rice and silk, which was considerably valuable at the time, which made the Han suffer economically. The Han Empire was able to recover and stabilize their economy after Emperor Wudi took control. I think due to the Han's population sentiment on the policy, many wanted war to be waged against the Xiongnu under the Emperor Wudi's reign. Is this correct?
Yes, when Emperor Wudi ascended the throne, he advocated for military action against the Xiongnu. Emperor Wudi actually sent an envoy named Zhang Tian to negotiate with the Yuezhi, which was a tribe who were enemies of the Xiongnu, to ally against them. Although Zhang Tian was unsuccessful in scoring a deal, his venture exposed the materials, goods, and cultures of foreign nations to the Han. Upon hearing Zhang Tian's news about horses that were stronger and larger than those of the Han, Emperor Wudi established the Silk Road in hopes that by trading for the horses, he could use them to defeat the Xiongnu, whose horses were highly trained. Based on this idea, the Silk Road was established, and it culturally impacted the Chinese in the long term, where The exchange of philosophies and resources were introduced.
I guess although the purpose of Zhang Qian's trip was to form alliances against the Xiongnu, his trip brought key information that stimulated the initiation of the Silk Road system. And through this, the Western Han Empire then extended the fortifications furthest to the west to protect the trade routes that branched out from China to the west, both of which were long-term consequences lasting for centuries. So moving on, one of the most obvious consequences was the decline of the Xiongnu. Could you please go through us the downfall of the Xiongnu?
After the Silk Road was established, the Xiongnu strategically interfered with the routes, causing the Han generals to embark on military campaigns against the Xiongnu. This led to the subjugation of several tribes who withdrew from their activities. As they posed a threat, Emperor Wu Di commenced a full-scale attack against the Xiongnu, where a series of battles surfaced, including the Battle of Mayi. However, what led to the Xiongnu's decline in power was civil disorder within the nomadic confederation. Eventually, they split into eastern and western groups before reorganizing and separating again into northern and southern Xiongnu. Unlike the northern Xiongnu, who strived to be independent, the southern Xiongnu submitted to the Han dynasty as a tributary state.
Yeah, and by acting as a tributary state, the Chanyu of the southern Xiongnu was ordered to establish his court in the Han regions so that they were under supervision. During this period, many Xiongnu people integrated into the Han society. After the southern Xiongnu were under control, it caused migration of the Xiongnu people, in which we can consider a midterm effect. On the other hand, once the interactions between the Han and the Xiongnu ceased, the Han Empire continued to expand their territory, and the empire re-stabilized their economy, where their campaigns against the nomadic Xiongnu exhausted their imperial treasury. And that concludes today's podcast. Thank you, Jade, for joining us today in our segment of Ancient China. It was really such a privilege to speak with you, and I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot.
It was no problem at all. Thank you for having me.
So that concludes our Han Xiongnu topic. As always, stay tuned for next week's topic. See you soon.